Hey, everyone. It is Chef Evelyn here, and I am back for another installment of the Chef Care series. And today we are going to be chatting about how to sustain a self care first lifestyle. Oh, let's get in focus. There we go. And so I hope that when I put the little, notifications up of when I'm going to go live, that helps a little bit so you can know when I'm going live. But if it's your first time catching me live, well, welcome. If you've caught me live before or you've been to the channel before, then welcome back. Okay, I'm so excited for today. I really wanted to talk about this because, I know I've been kind of talking a lot about, self-care for women entrepreneurs and being honest about what you want and don't cheat yourself. But I kind of wanted to share with you something a little bit more tangible today about what it takes to really sustain a self-care lifestyle, because a lot of times we hop on the interwebs. We're on Instagram, we're on social media, we're on YouTube, we're on a live like this, and it's a great dialogue, and we get super excited, and then, we're like, all right, and then it's like back to business as usual, right? So I kind of want to share with you, I think it's 5 or 6, maybe 7, elements that it's kind of like my signature, like on how to sustain a self-care lifestyle. Some of what we kind of talked about, but it's part of a process that I think is important and that I think every woman needs, whether she is an entrepreneur, whether she's not, in any area of her life. I think these elements are important to have in place so that you can maintain a certain standard of self-care in that area. So listen, let me know in the comments where you are tuning in from and what you have been enjoying most about this series. I should have grabbed my water because I know that I'm going to be talking a lot, but I want to know, where are you tuning in from? Have you caught any of the previous lives? And what have you enjoyed thus far about the self-care series? I think we're like a week and a half into this, so we've been trekking along. And also, while you are typing in your comments, wanted to let you know that all of these Chef Care series videos are in a playlist on my channel. So if you're like, oh, this is the first one I'm catching, where are the rest of them? They're a little bit mixed in with the regular channel videos, but I created a playlist in case you want to come and just get your fix. You want to come and rewatch something. I always tell people, listen to things multiple times because, something that struck you the first time, there may be something else that struck you later. Like there is this message from, I think, 2007. No, 2005. Oh my goodness. So 2005, there's this message from TD Jakes. I think it was the first Sunday I ever went to his church, and I bought the CD. So that just lets you know how long ago that was. I bought the CD. I still have the CD. And every couple of years, I pull it out and I listen to it. And it means something completely different to me in whatever season of life I'm in at that time, right? So for you, I would say, if you've been enjoying these series, make sure you come back, revisit them, take notes, what struck you today. In 6 months or a year, it may be something else, right? And then make sure you share it with a friend. So, okay, I guess y'all don't, I can see that you're watching. I guess y'all don't want to introduce yourself. But just know that I can see that you're watching. So anyway, I wanted to jump into this. I've really been enjoying this self-care series. And, it's so funny because it's the end of the year and there's like two schools of thought happening, right? Some people are like, just rest. You've already, done so much this year. And some people are like, grind it out to the end of the year. And, while I'm not a fan of like hustle and grind, but some people are like, don't lose steam at the end of the year. It just really depends on what season of life you're in. I think that, there's no right or wrong answer with that. So let's jump into, I think it's 5 or 6 possibly 7 things. Like, I don't have a whole lot of notes. I have like literally one word for each one of these things because, okay, this is a side note. This is how you know that you know something. When you can just talk about it, right? And you don't necessarily need, like hours to come up with a script or things like that. Like, I'm not saying like if you were getting paid professionally that you shouldn't rehearse and have a deck and all that. But when I really think that something is just a part of who you are, you can talk about it effortlessly. And so I literally was like, I talk about these things all the time with my friends and different things like that. And so, and I kind of weave it into the curriculum of the Chef's Table with my one-on-one clients. So I'm going to share a little sneak peek of that with you today. So some of these, like I said, are going to be a little bit of a review, and then there's going to be some new ones. And hopefully I don't step on anybody's toes. But if I'm walking up your pew, if you can't say amen, say ouch. Okay, great. Okay, so the first thing that it really takes to sustain a healthy, I was about to say healthy living lifestyle. Well, self-care is healthy living, right? But we're not talking about healthy living as listen. Now, I just did this whole spiel about how when you know something, you don't have to have a whole lot of notes and you don't have to write things down. And apparently I just proved myself wrong. Okay. Okay. Pull it together, Evelyn. Pull it together. Okay. So, yes, a healthy lifestyle, but a self-care lifestyle is you have to have a self-care mindset. And we kind of talked about this about, putting self-care first, orienting your life around self-care instead of orienting your life around work. We also, talked about prioritizing self-care, how to make room in your life for self-care, all of those things, right? And so the mindset really has to believe that there is something more important than work. And work is there to serve these other things, right? And so really have the mindset of, and we talked about making a decision, right? Like to decide to cut, that you are going to have a self-care first lifestyle. So, if you missed any of the previous lives, we kind of go into depth about that. So I won't spend a whole lot of time on it here, but really it's about knowing that your quality of life is more important than what you do for a living. I'm going to say that again. Your quality of life is more important than what you do for a living. What you do for a living is there to be in service to your quality of life, is there to support your quality of life. It's kind of like the foundation, right? And we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. So that's the first thing, right? Is you really have to have the mindset. And I know sometimes when people do these lives, people are always talking about mindset, and it's like, yes, but it's so important. Okay, it's super, super important. Okay, the second thing you need to have is your maintenance in place, right? So we talked about like that, getting your hair done isn't self-care, that's maintenance. Getting your nails done is not self-care, that's nail maintenance, right? Taking a bubble bath and soaking your muscles or whatever, that's not self-care, that's self-maintenance. And so those things are important, but a lot of women are settling for self-maintenance and then wondering why their self-care Saturday or their self-care routine isn't really working or feeling the way that they think it should. And it's so interesting because if you follow me on Instagram, which if you don't, you should, Chef Evelyn over there. I shared a clip in my stories today from a training that I did in one of my business besties for her community about the difference between self-care and self-maintenance and how even successful women can be doing all the self-care things, right? They've got their standing spa appointment. They've got their standing, nail appointment. They've got their standing this, that, and the other. And it's like a temporary fix. And they're wondering why, like, by the time the next one comes around, they're like dragging themselves in, right? And it's because that's self-maintenance. That's not self-care, right? So yes, you need to have the mindset of self-care and you need to have your maintenance in place because if you don't have your maintenance in place on a regular basis, you will confuse self-maintenance with self-care. Okay. So that's the second thing. So the first thing is mindset. The second thing is maintenance. Okay. The third thing that you really need to Jasmine says, uh, I'm working and listening to you simultaneously, so I can't respond as often, but I'm definitely listening. Well, thank you for listening, Jasmine, and thank you for sharing that. Like sometimes y'all be having me feeling like I'm out here alone. You know what I'm saying? Just talking to myself, okay? But I know that I'm not because I can see when people are watching, and then I can see when people watch the replay. But I'm like, I want to connect. I want to dialogue. But if you're working, I totally understand. What kind of work do you do? I'm assuming you do something in food, or you want to do something in food. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, right, Jasmine? Let me know. Okay, so the first thing, like we said, is a self-care mindset. The second thing we talked about is making sure you have your self-maintenance in place, right? So that you don't confuse, a lack of self-maintenance when you have it with self-care. Like, it's kind of like, there was this, oh my gosh, I'm telling my age, but I think there was this joke. Was it in Raw or Delirious by Eddie Murphy in the 80s? I was a kid, okay? And basically, it was kind of like if you're starving and somebody hands you a saltine cracker, you're going to think that this is the most delicious saltine cracker. You think it's going to be the most delicious meal ever, and it's like it's just a saltine cracker. And the same thing that happens when we shortchange ourselves on self-maintenance, right? And we're starving ourselves of just our general womanly self-maintenance, the things that make us feel like ourselves, then, and for every woman that's different, right? So, like, I'm not saying it's a one size fits all, but when we aren't consistent with that, then when we do it, it feels like self-care, and the bar is set kind of low, right? Awesome. You're an ESL tutor, and your husband and you have been doing vegan catering for about 3 years. Awesome. One of my clients she is a vegan. One of my current clients. I've had a couple of vegan, well, some teachers, some caterers, some personal chefs. So I love that. Yes, she is vegan, and she was a nurse for at least 25 years, I believe. And, transformed her health with her plant-based lifestyle. So love that. I tell people I'm a part-time vegan, right? Like I'm plant focused, but I'm not a full-on vegan. Well, thanks for being here while you're working, okay? First thing, we talked about mindset. Second thing, we talked about having your maintenance in place. And then the third thing is you need to have some me time, okay? Now, I know that the internets have automatically associated me time with self-care. And yes and no, right? Because a lot of times sometimes we just need me time to think. We need me time to plan. We need me time to set some certain structures in place, right? To reflect, to do all these different things. And so those things are important, but I wouldn't consider those self-care, right? I don't know what that means. So, you definitely need me time when it comes to making sure that you can sustain a self-care lifestyle, because sometimes you just need a moment to think, right? Like, let me tell you what I love about my Wednesdays, okay? I don't schedule any calls with my clients or potential clients or anything. I don't schedule any appointments or anything on Wednesdays because I need a day in the middle of the week, right, for some me time. Whether that's I need to put some TLC on my business or some TLC on my personal life or a combination of both, and I need just like extended, uninterrupted time, right? And so Wednesdays are my me time. Sometimes people try to schedule meetings with me, and I'm like, can you do it Tuesday or Thursday, right? I have boundaries around that, and I wouldn't consider that my self-care day, but it's a day for me to think. It's a day for me to plan, review, strategize, catch up on certain things that need to get done, whether professionally or personally. And again, if we're not building that me time into our schedule, again, when we get me time, we can think that it's self-care, and it's like it is a catalyst to self-care, but in and of itself, I wouldn't consider it self-care. And I know you're probably like, but that's what everybody on the internet is saying. It's like, yeah, but they all stressed out. Okay, no, I'm just they're all stressed out. Anyway, okay. So first you need to have a self-care, focused mindset. Then you need to have your self-maintenance in place so that you don't confuse self-maintenance for self-care because you've been starving for self-maintenance. And then the next thing is you need some me time, right? You need some time to think. Sometimes you need to update your self-care strategy. You need to update your self-care plan. You need to update your self-care standards, right? Your self-care system, right? And when you're doing that, that is not self-care. That is the preliminary work to making sure that you're staying on track to sustain a self-care lifestyle, right? So these things need to be in place in order to support, right, that self-care lifestyle. It's kind of like these are the structures or the items that need to be a part of your regular everyday life, right? So that you can have the room and the capacity to do real self-care. Which brings me to my next point, okay, is that you need to have margin. Now, when I say margin, I'm talking about you need time margin, you need space in your calendar, right? If you wake up and you're hopping out of bed and you're running and you're going and you're blowing and you're going and then you're working and you get home and then and then you just fall into the bed, right? Like you have no time margin, right? I definitely have a rise to work plan and a work to rest plan. So, if you've ever taken a statistics class or anything like that, or, we did this in engineering, or if you're just familiar with the bell curve, right, that it kind of goes up and then down, right? But it's not a sharp triangle, right? And so, I like to live my life in kind of like that bell curve kind of way. I like to ease into my day and work and then ease out of my day into my evening. I like to ease into my week, right? Then I like to ease out of my week, right? I like to ease into my month and ease out of my month. Same thing. I like to ease into the year. All of this is January 1. Let's hit the ground running. Let me tell you, it's all like everything in nature is resting during that time. It's almost like, and then we wonder why it falls off. And for years, I used to be like, I don't seem to get my second wind until like March. And it was like, oh, because it's springtime. And everything in nature, at least in this hemisphere, is new and fresh and blooming again, right? And I was like, why am I going against the circadian rhythms of nature, right? It's kind of like when I used to work third shift, I used to be like, it was super unnatural to get up and go to work at 9:00 at night, right? Because my circadian rhythm was saying it's time to rest, right? And trying to eat at 3 a.m. And my circadian rhythm was saying you should be in REM sleep, right? So, and the same thing happens in life, right? So you need to have maintenance in your time. You need to have margin in your time. You need to have margin in your finances, right? You need to have space, right? Because, nothing's worse than a tight budget. Like, it's kind of like, even with the time thing, like I realized if y'all haven't noticed, I enjoy makeup. I've got a huge cart of makeup right here. It's a hobby of mine. It's an interest of mine. It's something that I really enjoy doing, right? And I used to think that, oh, okay, for me, a makeup enthusiast, right, from, stepping in the shower until fully getting dressed, I used to think, oh, that's only going to take me 30 minutes. The lies I was telling myself. It takes me 1 hour flat. And if I really want to just play, right, if I'm not doing like my simple signature makeup look, if I really want to do, if I want to play with a new palette or a new color story, whatever, then it's 1 hour and 15, 1 hour, 30 minutes. And I remember watching a video of one of my favorite YouTubers, and she was like, if you're a makeup enthusiast, right, and I'm not associating makeup with self-care because that's not what this is, but I'm just using this as an example. But she was like, if this is like a hobby that you enjoy, and she was like, and if you're watching my channel, this is probably the case. She was like, then allow yourself an extra 15 minutes, right? Allow yourself, to have a pretty place, to do your makeup, allow yourself to have margin versus just trying to rush and get it done, right? And so you definitely need margin in your schedule. Jasmine says, we are no longer stressing or overworking ourselves. I openly accept a comfort life. comfort and ease, right? And I say this all the time. This is not about not working diligently. This is not about not having great work ethic, but it's also not equating overworking to that's how you have to earn money, because that's this idea that intensity will bring the results when it's really consistency. And we know that to do anything consistently, it can't be intense, which is why, think about track runners, right? The reason why sprinters can do what they do is because it's for a short period of time, right? They could not keep that speed up for 26.2 miles, right? You have got to, in order to do something consistently, you have got to drop the intensity, right? And so, and also you need to get to what is the heart of the matter. What do I really need to do consistently? And I need to enjoy it, because contrary to popular belief, we do not stick to things that we don't enjoy, right? One of the examples that I'll give, and then I'll get back on track with, kind of the things you need to sustain a self-care lifestyle. One of the things that, I really had to work on was this idea that I had to go to the gym. Now, did I want to move my body to be healthy? Yes, right? And for years, I was in and out of gyms, right? Paying memberships, doing this, doing that, doing the third. Taking the classes. Okay, I kind of like it. I kind of don't. Okay, well, maybe if I, did the elliptical, maybe if I did the treadmill, okay, maybe if I just do weights, well, maybe if I took a cycling class, right? And knowing the whole time, right, of my adult life, that what I really, really love to do is dance. And not a workout class that kind of feels like dance, like actual dance, like at a studio with choreographers and dance instructors, right? And so if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I've been taking ballet for adults, right? And, I get so many comments like, oh my gosh, like, did you take ballet as a child? And I'm like, no. And they're like, did you take, have you danced like this before? No. Like, are you training for something? No. That's how I want to move my body. And it's so enjoyable, even though I'm not great at it, and it can be a little uncomfortable sometimes, right? Because moving my body in ways and using muscles that I didn't even know that I had, right? But the dance is so enjoyable to me that I was like, I don't know, and this is for me, right? I don't even know why I would join a gym ever again, right? That I would just continue to go to dance classes, whether that's ballet or jazz or contemporary or Afro beats or hip hop or whatever the case may be, right? But I had to go through a process to get really clear about, well, what would be the most enjoyable way for me to do this to still get the result? And so the same thing happens across the board, right? Like, some people I know go to the gym and they hate it. They absolutely hate it. They want to be healthy. They want to move their body, right? They want to, exercise, if you will. And they keep doing things that they have been taught the belief that in order for this to be effective, I've got to dislike it. Now, notice I didn't say it had to be comfortable, because ballet and some of the moves that, like, my body is like, you're not in your 20s, okay? But I don't mind the discomfort because I enjoy the experience so much, right? So even when we're doing these super slow, very pinpointed moves, and we're all in there drenched in sweat, and, your thighs are shaking and all that, right? I don't mind the discomfort, the physical discomfort, because I enjoy the class so much, right? And so, when it comes to sustaining a self-care lifestyle, like, it's all, I would say, what are the things that you enjoy, right? That will get you to the desired end, right? Now, some things we have to do them a while before we enjoy them. Okay, but that's a conversation for another day. So the first thing we talked about was, in order to sustain a self-care lifestyle, you need the right mindset. And then we talked about having your self-maintenance in place so that you don't confuse self-maintenance with self-care because you were starving for self-maintenance. We talked about that you need your me time to think, to process, to plan, to check in with yourself, right? All of that. And that is a tool for self-care, but in it itself is not self-care. And then also we talked about needing margin in your time. And I will also say you need margin in your finances. Come on, right? You absolutely need margin because how are you going to do the things that you need to do, right? Like that ballet intensive costs money, right? And so you need to have margin. And so you need to ask yourself, are you living in such a way that you're allowing yourself to have margin financially? Now, let me tell you what I think is so interesting. My mother is a certified financial planner. Well, she was a chemical engineer first, and then she became like a certified financial planner, does all the things with money, real estate, all the things, right? And, because of how she grew up, her focus was always on what I call defensive strategies for money, saving, getting things that reduce costs, reducing your expenses. And listen, I think all of those things are great. But what I realize is, and I am not, pretending to be any kind of sports aficionado, right? But what I do know is you can't win any game with defense alone, right? Like you need defense. It's important, but offense wins games, right? And so when it comes to having margin in your life financially, right? Yes, you need to have defensive things in place, right? Managing your money well, having a cash flow spending plan, aka a budget, right? Making sure that you're not paying more than what you need to for certain things, right? Just being a good steward over your finances in general. But then you also need to have an offensive strategy because you can get to the point where you're doing all the right things. You're saving for retirement. You're saving for this. You've reduced this bill and this expense, and you reduce that, and you reduce that, and reduce that, and you're running the lean, mean money machine, right? And then it's like it's not doing what they said it was supposed to do. It's not giving what it was supposed to have gave, right? And that's because you need an offensive strategy, which is what's my plan to make more money so that I can have margin, right? You need both sides of the coin. It's kind of like why elimination diets don't work for people, right? Because it's all about don't eat this, you can't have that, you can't. And when you hear about elimination diets, right? A lot of people will be like, it wasn't sustainable, right? Because restricting certain things, while that is an aspect of, self-control, whatever, portion control, whatever it is, right? Also, a lot of times that's not really the main issue. The main issue is that they're not incorporating certain things, right? Because if they incorporated certain things, they wouldn't even have the taste or the room for some of these other things, right? And so it's the same thing about having margin in your finance. I think we've been taught a lot about, save your latte money and don't do this and don't do that. And live within your means. And listen, I think that's all advice from people who mean well and are sharing what's worked for them. But the other side of that coin is you can do that all day long and still be miserable because you don't have margin. You don't have a plan for more, right? To create that space, right? One of my mentors from afar, if you will, I'm in her membership community though. And I remember she tells a story about how, she was a therapist and she was making $24,000 a year, right? And in her story that she tells a story often, people were telling her like, live within your means and save your Starbucks money and do all these things. And she was like, I don't want to learn how to live on $24,000 a year. Like, while I got what they meant, she was like, nobody ever told me. It's like, living within your means is fine, but sometimes it's not enough means, right? And here's the thing. I think, for women, I think for women of color, I think for Black women especially, we have to be honest with ourselves that sometimes, we desire more, and that doesn't make us greedy. It doesn't make us materialistic. And we have to be honest with ourselves about the fact that we need more and want more margin. That it's okay to have space, have room, have more than enough. I talked about in one video being financially relaxed, but also just so that you can be fully expressed, right? So making sure that you have room in your schedule, and making sure margin in your schedule, and making sure that you have margin in your finances. Okay. So first things first, we talked about to sustain a self-care lifestyle, you need to have the a self-care first mindset. Then we went into having your self-maintenance in place, so that you don't confuse it with self-care. Then we went into having me time to think, to process, to plan, to check in, all of that. Then we went into having margin in your schedule, in your time, but also margin in your finances to sustain a self-care lifestyle. And the next thing that you need to have in order to sustain a self-care lifestyle, right, that's custom to you, right, because self-care is not one size fits all, is you need to have a master plan. How do you know how to implement consistent self-care if you don't have a plan for it, if you don't have a system for it, right? Like some people's, let's use a money example. This is very, very simple. So if you're an employee, your plan possibly, right, was I'm going to go to college in this degree. In this field, I'm going to get my degree, and then I'm going to go search for jobs, right? And then I'm going to go get a job, right? I'm going to negotiate my salary, and then in order to sustain that, I'm going to go to work every day. I'm going to have great performance, great people skills, and that is going to be my, that's my plan for earning money, right? And, that's great. But do you have a plan for relationships? Family, friends, significant other, if you have children? Do you have a documented plan, right? A written plan? Are you flying by the seat of your pants and then wondering why it's not doing what it's supposed to do, right? Okay, do you have a plan for, like we said, the offensive side and the defensive side of your finances? Is it written somewhere? Are you checking in on it on some frequency, right? Okay, what is your plan for your health, right? Or are you the kind of person that I'm just going to live life, and then if I get sick, then I'll go to the doctor and I'll just take a pill, and that's just right? Like, is your plan all reactive? But I can tell you that self-care, the kind of self-care that I'm talking about, is proactive versus reactive, right? What is your plan to stay rooted and continuously growing in your faith? If you're a person of faith, right? Where is it written? When are you checking in? Are you just going through the motions of what you think you're supposed to do, right? What is your plan for travel and adventure? What is your plan for your business? Is it written? Do you know where you're supposed to be in 90 days, 6 months, a year, 5 years? Where's the business going? Do you have financial projections, right? Do you have a strategic plan in place, or are you just on a wing and a prayer, right? So let me tell you, confusion and indecision, we talked about this, is the mother of anxiety. Anxiety and stress are best friends, right? And so when you don't have a plan in place for all these areas of life, like I tell people all the time, I was like I have a skincare plan. Hello. And I have been working it for the past, what year is this? 13 years, right? And, as my skin changes, as I age, I'm checking in with the plan, right? Getting support around the plan, right? For my health, for my hair, right? What's the plan to keep your home a haven, right? To keep it enjoyable? What's the schedule, right? What kind of support do you need, right? Is it written down somewhere? Or are you stressed because you looked up one day and you're like, somebody got to clean these baseboards, okay? Right? So when it comes to sustaining a self-care lifestyle, you have to have a plan. What I realize, and this is not just me pulling this out of thin air, I read this statistic a while ago. It says only 3% of Americans plan. 3%. Everybody else is just winging it, right? And then wondering why they're stressed. And I think what happens is, I think somewhere we were taught that a plan is rigid and inflexible and doesn't allow for spontaneity and doesn't allow for creativity and doesn't allow for these things. And what I can tell you is actually the opposite. When you have the structure for all these things in place, it actually gives you, here we go, the margin to be more spontaneous, the margin to change it up a little bit, right? The margin to experiment and do different things, right? Because you have this baseline established plan in place that's running in the background, right? But when you don't have that in place, right, it can be challenging, okay? It can be stressful. It can be exhausting, right? So, when you think about maintaining a self-care lifestyle, like, what is your self-care plan for your personal life? And then what is your plan for your business life? Do you want to leave that job? What's the plan? Do you know how to get there? How do you know how to do something? Let me tell you one of my favorite quotes. And again, I wish I could tell you who said it. It was like, how do you know that you know something? Right? How do you know that you know something? And it was like, either if you've heard it, you don't know it, you just heard it. If you've read it, you don't know it, you just heard it. But if you've done it, then you know it, right? And so, a lot of times people are like, oh yeah, I know how to get myself to the next destination, even though I've never been there before and I have no roadmap or anything in front of me, whether it's for their personal life or their professional life. And then they wonder why it took them 3 to 5 years to figure out, oh yeah, like, let me tell you, when it comes to like your hobbies and interests and what's play for you, right? I can't tell you how many of my clients, like, when they first come to me, like, they forgot how to play, right? And they didn't know how to get it back, right? And I had to show them, like, here's the process that you need to go through to get you back to where you have play and enjoyment in your life, right? And it's not just going to brunch on the weekends, right? Like, that could be a part of it, but I know that there's so much more to you than that, right? And so, like, they were trying to figure it out on their own or not. And it's like, that's why there's people to help you with to create a plan, right? So ask yourself, think about all those areas of your life, right? What is your plan, right? I remember, and this is for my ladies out there, we'll kind of get into a little bit of the health part. One of the things that I found so interesting is that there wasn't a lot of information on, like, womb care, right? Womb, like your womb, right? Like, we have, dental care, right? Brush, floss, go to the dentist X many times a year. If you need fillings, get fillings. If you need scaling, get scaling. Do this, mouthwash, whatever, do all these water pick, oil pull, all these different things, right? We've got dental care. We've got skin care. We've got hair care, right? We had all nail care, right? And I thought, heart health, gut care, right? But I was like, we have this huge system in our bodies that are like the gateway to life, okay? And I was like, who is teaching womb care? Not just after you've had a baby or while you're pregnant, but I was like, every day. I was like, literally, it's just going to the doctor once a year and getting swabbed for cancer, because that's all a pap smear is, right? And I was just like, I need a womb care plan, right? Like, how do I not have a womb care, right? Vision care. What are you doing proactively to keep your vision? Like, this is just for the body, right? We're not even talking about the other areas of your life. I have these written down, right? I have a strategic self-care plan, right? This is why I say most people's vision boards don't work, because it's just a wish list. It's not a strategic plan for all those areas in their life. And they're wondering why, when they look at their vision board, they've got the same things in their vision board year after year after year. And let me tell you, I got a whole closet full of my old vision boards, right? And what's interesting is that when I look back over the years and I look at the things on my vision boards that have manifested and the things on my vision boards that haven't come to pass, what's interesting is that the ones that did is because I had a written plan on how I was going to usher in what was on the vision board, right? And then a lot of people, treat vision boards like just a fancy arts and craft project, right? What they do is they'll open up magazines and they'll open up books or whatever, and this is what they'll do, right? And again, I don't say this in judgment, right? But I just want you to I want to offer you a different perspective when it comes to having this master plan for your life versus just a vision board. Is think about this, right? So they sit down either at the end of the year or the beginning of the year, right? And they get their board, they get their stickers, their washi tape, they get their glue stick, their scissors, right? They get magazines, newspapers, things like that, or maybe they print stuff off the internet, right? And what they do is they go, oh, you know what? Yeah, I think I kind of want this, so I'll put this on the vision board. And oh, that, you know what? I think I want that too, so I'll put that on the vision board. And you know what? Yeah, I think I want that this year, and I'll put that on my vision board. And it's like, what? Like, to me, a vision board comes last at the end of a master plan. You get really clear about what are my standards of care in all of these areas, or what are my new elevated standards of care in all of these areas? What is it going to take to get me there? What are all the supporting cast and things that I need for that? This is that master plan, right? And then the vision board is just the visualization of all the steps that it takes to get you there, right? But just haphazardly putting things on a board and going, yep, this is going to be my life this year is dangerous territory, right? So in order to sustain a self-care lifestyle, you need a master plan, right? And like I said, the statistics say that only 3% of Americans are planning, right? I know people and then they're like, oh my gosh. And I think a couple of ladies mentioned the other day, like they've had the same vision board for the past couple of years. They don't have a self-care plan. They don't have a strategic plan for their life. And what I know is how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you don't have a strategic plan for your life, then you don't have a strategic plan for your business, right? So first thing was you have to have a self-care mindset, okay? Second thing was you have to make sure that you have your self-maintenance in place so that you don't confuse self-maintenance for self-care because you were lacking in that department. The third thing we talked about was having me time, right? So that you can work on this plan. You see how this is all tying together, right? So that you can check in on this plan. Is it doing what you thought it was going to do? Is it working? Are you moving forward? Are you implementing the things, right? And so you need that me time, right? Which is a component that holds up self-care, but in and of itself is not self-care, right? You need margin, okay, in your time budget, in your schedule, in your day-to-day life, right? And you also need margin in your finances, okay? And then we talked about you need a master plan, right? Now, let me tell you let me tell you the next thing that you need in order to sustain a self-care lifestyle. You need a mentor. And let me tell you why. I remember there is a pastor. His name is Jimmy Evans. And he said, any area in your life where you're not getting the results that you want, right, is an area that you're not teachable in. Let me say that one more time. He said, any area in your life where you're not getting the results that you want is an area that you are not teachable in. You got it. You already know how to do it. I can do it. I can figure it out myself, right? And he was like, and so if you're not teachable in that area, right, if you're not open to, you know what, maybe I don't know. Because if I knew, I'd be doing it. If I'm not doing it, then I don't know, right? And maybe I knew to a point, but in order to get me to the next point, to the next level, I don't even know what I don't know, right? And I remember that quote really, stuck with me. And every time I found an area of my life where that it wasn't quite doing what I thought, or what I wanted it to do, I was like, do you have a mentor in this area, Evelyn? And I was like, you sure do not, right? I was like, okay, you've been trying to figure it out. You've been trying to be you've been trying to, DIY everything and know everything yourself. I can't, I'm not God. I don't know all things, right? I know what I know. And then there's people that know what they know. Like when it comes to my health, I can't be my doctor and my surgeon. and my nurse, right? I need a mentor in that area. I need somebody from a mentor perspective, from alternative medicine, traditional medicine, right? Movement, right? Nutrition, whatever the case may be, right? I, I need a mentor in that area. When it came to my business, when I wasn't getting the kind of results that I wanted, I was like, I need mentors in that area. When it came to different other areas of my life, right? Spiritual, relational, whatever, I need mentors in that area. My mental health, right? I have a therapist, right? Like, if you want to sustain a level of care in an area, and we're always changing and evolving, you need a mentor in that area. I am a single woman, but I remember, the last church I went to, they were really big on married couples being, in community with couples that were years and years ahead of them, right? Because if they wanted to be successful in their marriage, they needed the mentorship of a couple that was 20, 30 years, past them, 10, 15 years past them, right? And so, any area, where you are not getting the results that you want or not moving at a pace that you desire is the area that you've decided that you're not teachable in, that I'm just going to figure it out myself, right? It's an arrogant thought, right? But that's why I was like, I told you earlier, I said, if you can't say amen, say ouch, right? I knew that I was going to be sliding up, your pew, okay, sliding up on your row, okay, but in love, right? So when I think about now, when I think about all the areas in my life where I, am focused on and growing, I absolutely have a mentor in that area. I have business mentors, right? I am a business mentor, and then I have business mentors because there are people who are ahead of me, right? And sometimes I think because we think because we have had a certain amount of success in the area, we no longer need a mentor. And it's like Simone Biles still has a coach, you know what I'm saying? Ariana Grande still has a vocal coach, right? Serena Williams still has a coach. Like, we've talked about this, right? Because they're still teachable in that area because there's another level that they want to get to, right? And when they decide that that's an area that they no longer want to grow in, then they won't have a need for that coach or for that mentor. But when it comes to our lives, you want to think about and be honest with yourself. Where am I not growing? Where is life not doing what I would like it to do? Have I gotten guidance in this area, right? Because you can have that master plan all day long, right? But if you don't have somebody to go, actually, that plan's not going to do what you think it's going to do, right? Or somebody who can say, you know what? I see what you're trying to do. That's not going to get you there. If you've watched any of my videos, I talk about this from a GPS standpoint. The reason why GPS is so effective is because they have gone ahead of us and surveyed the terrain. And so now they can say, this is where you are in your life, right? And this is where you want to go. We've already been where you've wanted to go. We know the way, and we can help you get there, right? And because we know the way, right, and we've been here before, if something happens along the way, construction, accident, detour, whatever, we still know how to get there, and we can help you navigate these detours, right? Let me tell you, I had a client, last night we had our private group coaching session for my one-on-one clients, right? And one of my clients, she's been with me, I think this is her third year with me, right? Without telling all of it, like she's surpassing her December goals by $10,000. Like that's not what she's made. She's superseding her goal by 10,000, right? And when she came to me, let me say that she wasn't averaging $1,000 a month. Okay. And so but she realized she knew that she was good at what she does. She knew she was an amazing chef, right? But she was like, I need guidance in this area. Like, I know food. I may not necessarily know culinary entrepreneurship. And yes, she was getting gigs and things like that, but it wasn't doing it the way she wanted to do it, right? So she humbled herself. It's so funny. Several of my clients are older than me, right? I think most of my clients are older than me, right? That doesn't matter, right? I have a coach right now that's I think 5 or 6 years younger than me, right? Because the age doesn't matter, because where she is at in her career is light years ahead of where I am in my career, and I'm teachable in that area, right? My ballet instructor, grew up in dance, right? Went to dance schools, got dance scholarships, dance this. I could have said, you know what, I'm going to be at home and I'm going to figure out how to teach myself ballet, but I could have injured myself along the way. I could have done all kind of things, right? But because she has so many more years of experience, I submit myself to her process, right? To avoid frustration, to avoid wasting money, to avoid wasting time, right? We talked about having that margin, right? To avoid costly mistakes, right? So in any area of your life, right, where you are not getting the kind of results that you want, ask yourself, do I have a mentor in this area? And if not, what are you going to do about it? Okay, so let's keep going. The last thing, and this is a bonus one, and let me tell you why this is a bonus one. We got the bots tonight, right? The reason why this is a bonus one, because I this wasn't on my original things to chat about, but I saw this post on Instagram yesterday, or maybe it was today, and when I read it, I was like, this is it right here. So I can actually give credit to this person. So this is Chris Johnson on Instagram, and he put up a post that says, and I want y'all to do this exercise with me, and if you're watching the replay, I want you to do this exercise in the comments. But if you're watching me while you're doing something else, I really want you to do this exercise with me, because I want you to understand how powerful this is, because he has summed up what I think I've been trying to say for years about having a high-end culinary brand, charging premium prices, investing into yourself so you can make the kind of money that you want to make or whatever. He summed it up so beautifully, right? So this is what he said. He said, there are so many things in this world that are more important than money. Get money so that you can focus on them. And then he goes on to say, money isn't the game. It's part of the game that helps you focus on the rest. Name something more important than money, then tell me how money can help you focus on it. So let me just read this again, because I really, really want you to get this right. This is what he said. He said, there are so many things in this world that are more important than money. Get money so you can focus on them, right? And then he said, money isn't the game. It's part of the game that helps you focus on the rest. And I wouldn't even say money. I wouldn't say money is, if this were my words, I would say money isn't the goal. Money is the tool to help you get to the goal, right? But this is the powerful exercise. He said, now let's play a game. Name something more important than money. Then tell me how money can help you focus on it, right? And so I want us to do this exercise together. I thought I was like, this is what I've been trying to say for years. This is why it's so important that you are compensated well, right? Because money is not the goal. Money is the tool to help you get to the goal, right? And so I want you to, if you're watching live or if you're watching the replay, you can put it in the comments down below, or you can put it in the chat box right now. What is something that is more important to you than money? But then also tell me how money will help you focus on it, right? So for me, I'll just take something like friendship, right? So I'm an only child, so I have no siblings, which means I also don't have nieces and nephews. And my friends are like sisters to me, right? And it's really important to me that I have the time to spend with them, to love on them. I like to treat them with gifts because that's one of my love languages. And, I want to see them, and I want to have the time margin, and I want to have the financial margin to travel to, when they have significant life events. I had a friend whose mother passed away this summer, and I was like, I was on a plane, right? I was on the plane. I was there. And I didn't have to ask her. I didn't be like, I gotta work. Oh, how much is the ticket? The hotel. It didn't matter, right? And I was so grateful to be there for her during that time with no concern for money, right? That when I got there, and she opened the door, that I could hug my friend, right? And not be like, I wish I could come, but I can't, or I wish I could, send funds if I can. I wish I could do this, whatever, right? Like, it just wasn't a thought because I did what I needed to do, right? I got a mentor in that area so that I could be there for the important things, right? And so and while that's a sad thing, I want to be there for, the happy things too, right? I want to be able to treat people. I want to give to causes that I care about, right? That need funding, right? I want to live a legacy, right? I want people to be debt free. I want to be able to do these videos for you and without a concern about who signs up for my programs or not, right? I want to be able to be generous, right? And so in order to do that, for me, that takes money. And so when he said there are so many things in this world that are more important than money, get money so you can focus on them, I was like, ain't that the truth, right? So I'm going to ask you the same questions. I gave you some of my examples, like even my health, right? When I was diagnosed with cancer, I knew that I wanted to do alternative treatment. And I knew that insurance did not cover alternative treatment at all, right? And I was so grateful and felt so blessed that I had the resources to care for myself in a way that I felt appropriate, that a way that felt good to me, right? And that I didn't have to limit my choices to my budget or to I really, right, like I have no choice, right? Because money gives you options. It allows you to be who you are. And with women, I don't feel like we talk about it enough. It has been beat into our head that if we focus on the money, that makes us materialistic, or that makes us greedy, or we're not spiritual, or we're not grateful, or we're not humble, or whatever lie that they have told us. But it's like, but you know there are some people who will never be my clients. And if I didn't do what I needed to do to make the money, I wouldn't be able to be as generous. Like I'm live streaming every day. It's been a week and a half. There's hundreds of videos on my channel, right? I got a message on Instagram from a young lady the other day who just graduated from high school, who said she found my YouTube channel and, she's really thinking about becoming a chef, and that the videos have been so helpful. She's not ready to invest in my programs, right? But part of who I am wanted to have these resources out there for people, right, who just get started, right? It's not everything, right? But it's like there's something there to get them started. And so, really ask yourself the question, if I really leveled up and was honest with myself how much you really want to earn, right? I want to do this exercise with you. One of my mentors did this exercise with me, and I want you to close your eyes. Okay, so close your eyes, and I want you to think about how much money you make in a year. Right? You can keep that to yourself. That's none of our business. Right? Think about how much money you make in a year. Okay. Now ask yourself, how does that feel to you? Okay. How does that feel to you? Does it feel okay? Does it feel, it's all right? Does it feel like, oh, this is fantastic, right? There's no right or wrong answer, right? But how does it feel to you? How does it feel in your body, right? Do you feel tight and restricted? Do you feel neutral? Do you feel generous and expansive, right? Now, here's what I want you to do with your eyes still closed. I want you to take that number that you make a year, whatever that is, right? No right or wrong answer. And then I want you to think about, what would it feel like if that were your monthly salary? If that was your monthly income? What would it feel like if what you made in a year is what you make in a month? What does that feel like in your body? Is it scary? Is it like, ooh, does it feel relaxing? Does it feel expansive? Does it feel like, I don't know, right? No right or wrong answer there, right? But then ask yourself, if you made that much money a month, what would you be doing? I bet you can roll off, oh, I do this, I do that, I'd get this person this, I'd spend my time doing this, I'd blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, blah. You'd be doing all these different things. Yes, some for you, but I bet you some of the things that started rolling off the top of your brain were in service to other people, whether it was time, whether it was tangible gifts, whether it was an actual check, right? And so here's the thing. When you don't do what you need to do, get the help that you need to get the guidance, the GPS, the map, the me time, the maintenance, all this kind of stuff down. When you don't do that, you are robbing not only yourself, but all those people that you just thought about in your head, you're also robbing them too. Oh, and I'm going to say one for my faith-based people out there, right? I know that everybody that watching me is not faith-based. It's totally fine. You're all welcome. But for my faith-based people out there, let me add another layer to it. You are also robbing God of his glory. Hello. I'm going to say it one more time. You're also robbing God of his glory, right? Struggling, being exhausted, tired, burnt out, confused, anxious, stressed, depressed is not a good witness. It's not a good testimony. Who is going to want to be a part of that if that's what it looks like? It's not a good witness. It's not an effective witness. Nobody's going to be drawn to that, right? Nobody was like, "Ooh, you struggling? Tell me more about your faith." Right? Nobody's like, "Man, you seem stressed all the time. I really want to know what kind of faith practice you have." Right? Like nobody's going to be drawn to that, right? And sometimes we see people drawn to people for the wrong reasons because, but they're letting their light shine, right? And so imagine if you, a person, of faith and with substance was out there and you were living your best life, right? You were being generous with yourself, with others, with your family, with your friends, with strangers, with causes that you care about, right? Like, imagine what kind of impression that will leave on the world, right? So, listen, I have talked for an entire hour. I've talked for an entire hour. I told y'all, like, I didn't even have like actual notes, right? But let's get, I want to do a recap, but let's get into a little bit of Q&A about, I think it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 7 things we talked about that you need to sustain a self-care lifestyle, right? So while I'm going through the recap, definitely want you to put either your questions about any one of the 7 things that I talked about, or what was your aha moment? What was your takeaway, right? How did you feel about that exercise? We did 2 different exercises, right? Like one was like, what if your annual salary was your monthly salary? The other one was like, with the guy in the quote and all that. If you missed that, you'll do the replay, right? I want to know, like, what was your takeaway? Where's an area where you haven't been teachable in, right? Okay. Have you been confusing self-care with self-maintenance, right? So let me do a quick recap. And I just want to quickly let you know that the applications for the Chef's Table, where I walk you through my 10-step process on how to create a self-care plan for your life, and my process for how to create a high-end culinary brand, is all together, right? Because you need to be the CEO of your business and you need to be the CEO of your life, right? So the link is in the description box, but you can go to chefevelyn.com/program and apply for the Chef's Table. We're getting started in January. I'm only taking 10 women, so you might want to go ahead and get your application and schedule your interview. So let's do a quick recap. So the first thing we talked about when it comes to sustaining a self-care lifestyle is, number 1, is having that self-care first mindset, right? If you've been watching this series, if you've been watching the lives, then you know what we're talking about, or you can go back and watch the beginning of this broadcast. Okay, what we talked about, you have to have a self-care first mindset. Are you approaching your life with self-care as the priority? Is that the lens in which you're making decisions? Is that the lens in which you are living your life? Or are you living your life in a reaction mode only, right? And life is happening to you. Let me tell you, I know I'm in a recap, but let me tell you, when I see people and be like, life is just happening to me, and it's like, yes, there's a lot of things that are out of our control. But I think people underestimate that there's a lot of things that are within our control as well, right? And the things that are within your control them. Live with intention. So the first thing was a self-care mindset, right? The second thing was making sure that your self-maintenance is consistent so that you don't confuse your self-maintenance for a low grade, low budget form of self-care, right? Self-maintenance and self-care are not the same thing, right? Obviously, why they have two different names, okay? So that was the second thing. The third thing we talked about was having me time, right? To review this plan, write this plan, update this plan, implement this plan, right? Make sure that it's working, right? It's not a one-time set it and forget it. You're a dynamic woman. You're always growing and evolving, and your plan should grow and evolve with you, right? So that me time, again, critical to self-care, but in and of itself is not self-care by itself, right? So that me time, right? Then we talked about having margin, right? Margin in your time, okay? And also having margin with your money, right? To be able to do the things that you need to do, right? We also then talked about after the mindset, the maintenance, the me time, the margin, we talked about having a master plan. What is your self-care plan for your life? What is your plan for your business? You need both. And you need for all of the pillars of your life, you need a strategic plan, right? And then for all of the components of your business, you need a strategic plan. And a lot of people are just out here riding blind, right? So one of my friends, we used to have this thing we used to say that people aren't in the driver's seat of their life, right? At best, they're in the passenger seat. We don't know who's in the driver's seat. A lot of people are in the back seat of their lives. Some people are hanging off the spoiler on the trunk, right? And life is just going, okay? And it's like, I really want you to get in the driver's seat of your life, right? And then have this strategic plan for your life and for your business. It's just, all of that, what should I be working on today? Or, you get to the end of the year and you're like, what happened to my goals this year? A lot of people talked about, that their goals for 2020 when the pandemic happened, went by the wayside. And I was like, that's so interesting because my goals didn't. And a lot of my clients' goals didn't. Now, the way we had to get there significantly changed, right? And that's the thing about having a mentor we talked about, right? Like, my clients were still making money in the pandemic, even if it didn't look like what we thought it was going to look like, right? Because the destination doesn't change. The route may just change, right? But if you don't know, oh my gosh, like I heard, because I read it on somebody's website or I Googled it, that this was the path to get there. And now that road is closed off or doesn't exist anymore. Like, then I'm lost in the sauce and I don't know how to get to where I'm going, right? So we talked about having a mentor that in any area of your life where you're not getting the kind of results that you want, probably means that's the area that you're not teachable in, right? Shout out to Jimmy Evans, right? And like, that's a hard truth because if you really sit down and go, where am I not where I want to be? And then look around and go, I probably don't have a mentor in this area. Because you thought you could do it yourself. You thought you could figure it out yourself. You thought you could be your own brain surgeon. Okay, so a mentor. And then we talked about it takes money, right? And this quote from Chris Johnson, I just love this. There are so many things in this world that are more important than money. Get money so you can focus on them, right? And then I paraphrased and kind of changed up his caption. Money isn't the goal. It's the tool that helps you get to the goal, right? If let's say you want to create a beautiful home for your family, right? Because you want to have this, comfortable, relaxing backdrop to create memories, right? Then you need money to do that, whether it's to build the home, rent the home, buy the home, decorate the home, whatever the case may be, right? Make a house a home, whatever the case may be, right? And so the goal is not the money. The goal is the memories, right? And the money is just a tool to help you get closer to the memory, right? If you want to stay, in communication and in contact and keep relationships close of people that don't live in your same city or whatever, right? Then, well, you got to have money for the cell phone bill. You got to have money to travel to visit them. Maybe you send gifts. Maybe you send cards. Maybe you send flowers. Maybe you do different things, right? The money is not the goal. The money is a tool to get you to the goal. You need the time, right? If you're working in a job and they're like, it's 52 weeks in a year and you can only have 4, that's not even 10%, right? But if you made the money, you could say, I can have as many weeks of vacation as I want so I can spend it with who I care about, like, the money is not the goal. The money is the tool to get you to the goal, right? If somebody in your family is unwell or have had health challenges, right? And you're like, what? I want to get them the best care. I don't care if the doctor is in network. I don't care if the doctor is out of town. I don't care how long they have to be out of work, right? Money isn't the goal here, right? Their health is, but the money is the tool to get you to the goal, right? Or maybe you're married and your marriage is rocky because you have a lot of financial stress, right? Do what you need to do to get that financial stress off your family, right? Again, money is not the goal. Getting the stress off of your marriage so you can stay married is the goal. Money is the tool, right? So, that's why. And so I think that's why when people talk about, when they join programs and things like that, that is an investment, right? Because I'm making this investment to learn what I need to learn so I can make the money so I can get the thing that I want to get, right? And I think I told you the other day that one of my clients was like, Evelyn, you gave me my life back, right? Because it was more than just about, us 10 timing, well, actually, it was, I think we've at this point 20 times her monthly income, right? It's more than that, right? Like it's the life that she gets to live now because she has the tools, right? It's how she gets to be generous. Like, it's so funny, when she first came with me, it was all about like, I need to make more money. I need to make more money. And then last night, we were talking about, some of their goals for 2022. And she was like, I really want to bring more businesses along. I really want to help businesses who were in the position that I was in. Now that I have what? The money. Okay. And she's not worried, she's not worried about it because she did what she needed to do to make the kind of money. But here's the thing, she's always been a generous person, right? She needed the tool that would allow her to be more generous without it being to her detriment, right? So that's what I wanted to talk about today. These are the 7 things you need to sustain a self-care lifestyle. They are all within your reach. If you have the desire for them, then they will be yours, right? You just need to do what you need to do to get what you want to get. In my prayer time, it was either today or yesterday. Like, what came to me was like, you can have what anybody else has as long as you're willing to do what they did to get it. That person got a flat stomach. Oh, but they get up at 4:30 every morning to work out 5 days a week, and they eat clean and this and that, whatever. You can have what they have if you're willing to do what they do to get it, right? This person has a whatever figure business, right? Or this many clients or this many whatever. You can have it's all available to you because if it was available to them, it's available to you. You've got to be willing to do what they did to get there, right? I have a friend, one of my, she's a personal friend, but we also call each other business besties, right? And, we met in a time where both of our businesses were kind of shaky, and she excelled past me as far as dollar amounts, right? And it's so funny because most people would think that I would have been jealous, but I remember telling her, I said, let me tell you the difference between you and I. You started and invested a lot sooner. You decided, you know what, I'm going to learn what I need to learn to get where I want to get so I can do what I want to do, right? And I was like, that's the difference. And then when I started investing in my business, my momentum started picking up, right? And so I think the movie is called Akil and the Bee. I think this is the quote in the movie where he was like, we do what we have to do so we can do what we want to do. And this is that, right? Like, money is not the goal. It's the tool that gets you to the goal. You know, if you want your family to be closer to you, if you want, you know, if your parents are getting elderly and you want them to move, you want to move them in, but you don't want it to be a discomfort. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, maybe you need a mother-in-law suite or something like that, right? Like, money is not the goal. Caring for your aging parent in a way that's not stressful is, right? So I think you get the point. I think I have, you know, even if it's, let me bring it to something less serious. Even if it's, you just want to feel more confident in your wardrobe, right? Like, I went through a season where I was like, you know, I want to feel fully expressed in my appearance, right? And I remember that's when I kind of made the switch to like luxury makeup. And, you know, I was like, I really want to update my wardrobe. I was like, you know, I want to feel on the outside the way I feel on the inside, right? I want to look on the outside the way I feel on the inside. And so I remember saying like, okay, I'm about to overhaul my makeup. I'm going to overhaul my wardrobe. I'm going to overhaul all these things. And I remember saying to myself, okay, Evelyn, well, you know what? You're going to have to make more money because your taste has elevated. Okay. And I was like, but the money wasn't the goal. Being fully expressed internally and externally was the goal, right? You know, I wanted to have time to do my hobby stuff, right? And have playtime and be relaxed and have joy and play, right? And I was like, money isn't the goal. Money is the tool that I got to buy the things so I can play. I like luxury makeup, y'all, right? I wish I could show you. Let me see if I can show you. I don't think it's going to come into the, I don't think you're going to be able to see it. Oh, no, you can't see it. But anyway, this cart, yeah, you can't see it. This cart that's right here is full of luxury makeup. I got a vanity over here that's full of luxury makeup. That's something for me. It may be something completely different for you, right? But I was like, I owe it to myself to enjoy my life. Let me do what I need to do to get the tool, aka the money, to enjoy my life and share it with others, right? Like, and then I think about the YouTubers that I get to watch and that I get so much joy from the content that they make and all that kind of stuff, and how that's like my favorite way to wind down at the end of the day, right? And then I think about, if they didn't have the money to, you know, record videos, if they didn't have the time margin or the financial margin to buy the products that they buy and to do the things like that, right? Like, then I wouldn't have the joy of watching them, right? They're enjoying themselves and I'm enjoying them enjoying themselves, right? So, you know, I think that's the difference between me and a lot of business coaches, besides the fact that there's not a lot of culinary specific business coaches that aren't just teaching you, you know, how to take better pictures or how to run a restaurant or how to just be a personal chef. But it's that and I said this before, I'm so much more concerned about your life and your quality of life and making sure that you're fully expressed than I am the money. The money is the tool to get you to the life. That's it. So with that, it looks like we didn't have any questions today or takeaways or aha moments. So if you're watching the replay, you know, please feel free to put it there. But yeah, if you know that you are one of the 10 women and it's been in here, it's been in your chest area a little bit, okay, then make sure you go to chefevelyn.com/program to apply for the chef's table. And I will see you tomorrow. Good night.